Thanks again. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. It's truly an honor to be here. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಎಷ್ಟು ಜನಕ್ಕೆ ಕನ್ನಡ ಬರುತ್ತೆ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಕೈ ಎತ್ತೀರಾ ವಂಡರ್ಫುಲ್ ವಂಡರ್ಫುಲ್ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಕನ್ನಡ ಮಾತಾಡೋಣ ಸೊ ನಾನು ಹುಟ್ಟಿ ಬೆಳೆದಿದ್ದು 200 ಸ್ಕ್ವೇರ್ ಫೀಟ್ ಹೋಮಲ್ಲಿ ಇಲ್ಲಿಂದ 12 ಕಿಲೋಮೀಟರ್ಸ್ ದೂರ HL ಕ್ವಾರ್ಟರ್ಸಲ್ಲಿ ಸೊ ರಿಯಲಿ ಭಾಳ ಖುಷಿ ಇದೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಮುಂದೆ ಈ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ ಹೋಟೆಲಲ್ಲಿ ನಿಂತ್ಕೊಂಡು ನಿಮ್ಮ ಮುಂದೆ ಮಾತಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಭಾಳ ಖುಷಿ ಇದೆ. ಸೊ ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು ವೆರಿ ಮಚ್. ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು ವೆರಿ ಮಚ್. Okay, so we'll do a deep dive right into the EV space. As you know, a lot of vibrant activity going on in the EV space. And I'm very excited to share a lot of good information in this particular space. So I have a lot of slides here that gives an overview of where the market is and how things look like in the EV space. So without any hesitation, let's get right into it. I think one of the important things, as Nabil mentioned here, is we have our destiny that we need to build for India. We have to create the best EV platforms in India, and we have to bring the best technology in India for this particular platform, because this is the platform that is very exciting for the next 5 years, that has tremendous amount of growth and will address a lot of issues that challenges and issues that we have with emission and pollution that we have in India. So without any hesitation, let's look at what the world is doing and get right into it. So this particular market, the electric vehicle market, as we call it, literally was non-existent until 2010, 2011. There was the technology, the batteries and the technology existed in some shape or fashion, but there wasn't any mainstream production happening in this particular market. So literally you can see how the evolution of this market has come into play. Much of the build-up and ramp-up happened in 2017. So you can see the worldwide sales were close to 1.2 million vehicles approximately, and then the US alone topped it off close to 199,000 units being manufactured in US, a total driving to about 1.4 million. In 2018, that number accelerated considerably. The worldwide sales came out to 2 million, and US sales were 361,000 units, adding up to 2.3 million. So you can see the level of scaling that this platform is growing. It is growing at a rate of about 80 to 90% worldwide, which is a pretty significant number. You don't see this kind of growth in any different market today, especially because of the stagnation in other areas. And now fast forward into 2019, where we are is the worldwide sales is 2.5 million units, and US alone is at about 405,000 units. And you'll see who's the biggest player in that space. Again, that number in US is limited not because of the demand, but because of the manufacturing capacity. So the OEMs in US have not been able to scale fast enough in terms of driving production and expanding capacity to match up with the demand. We'll do a little bit of deep dive into that and understand that, but let's take a look at what the landscape looks like from 2018 and who has bulk of the share. So the major player in this space, looking at all the 2018 numbers, is obviously Tesla. Tesla is driving the technology, and Tesla is basically determining who the technology and the transformation of the technology looks like in this particular space. And we must say that we have been very fortunate, we as Robertshaw have been very fortunate to be partnering with them and in developing some of these new technologies and bringing it to the market. The second player in this space is also a US company. If you look at the breakdown of their sales, that's Chevy, and then we have Toyota, BMW, Honda, Nissan. Now, if you scan a little bit more further into the 2019 passenger car market, you remember we talked about how the breakout of these numbers come out to the 2.8 million units in production. Out of that, Tesla literally has 61% of the market. So as you know, you may have heard how Tesla is scaling very fast, right? They are the only company that came up with the fastest production location in China, and now they just announced another location in Europe, and they have 2 major locations in US, and they continue to expand, and we have been fortunate to partner with them as well. The three models that they sell are Model 3, Model X, and Model S. Those are the three big ones. So literally, they have 61% of the market share in North America, and they're driving the technology, and they're driving the transformation in the space. So I think you heard this from Nabil really well in terms of 1/3 of all vehicles made. I think that's what you said. 1/3 of all vehicles made will be EV by 2030. I personally feel that that may happen sooner. The way the speed and things that are happening. If you look at 2019 to 2025, we're expected to grow in the space by about a CAGR of 24.8%, which is a substantial number, right? That's phenomenally impressive. And how does that relate to North America? Will be roughly about 41%, and the rest of the world is going to be 59%. So that's a good equation there. And you can see that I think that's a very conservative estimate of 11 million in total vehicles to be launched in 2025. Yes, please.
No, I was talking about this graph actually.
This one right here?
If you see 4 lakh out of 29 comes to around 14%. So it should be for North America, and rest of world should be.
Good catch. You're right. Exactly. You're right. I think we just had a error there. Yeah, you're absolutely right. So that pie from North America, the 14%, is projected to expand to 41% by 2025. Yeah, you're absolutely right. So the big piece in this particular area is the thermal management, which is one of the biggest technology spaces outside of the battery that we're trying to accelerate. And integration of thermal management is the future of EV. That's what really drives the efficiency of the vehicle and the model. And we have been very successful in this space in helping the companies and the transformation of the technology. So how do we literally drive the weight loss within the unit in the fastest way we can, right? That's really the focus. So let's look at some of the areas that we try to accelerate in this particular section. So consolidation of valves. Basically, less valves means less weight, and removing complexity out of the different sections of the hood. That's basically one area that we look for. And integration of components and bringing components together basically is what we focus on. And that's basically where the technology is headed in this EV space. Lighter weight valves, metal to plastics, solenoids getting replaced with DC motors. That's something that we are looking at happening in this particular space. Lower pressure drop is starting to becoming a big requirement, means smaller size components in the thermal management system. So this is kind of how the landscape looks like where the technology is headed to. And a lot of our masterminds that we have in our companies and other companies inside of US, they're basically looking at how do we attack this space and how do we come up with component integration. So that's very exciting space to talk about. So if you look at the Model 3, I think it's very fair to say that the benchmark for the thermal management system was set up by Tesla, and the thermal management system and the integration and the open-mindedness by the OEM to try and leverage was all the reasons why Model 3 became extremely successful. So the cool thing is Robertshaw was very successful in helping them adapt this technology in the fastest way possible. We developed this whole concept for them in less than 6 months, and it was a blockbuster. They waived a lot of the testing requirements and things of that nature to bring it to the market, and it was truly exciting. And today, we are proud to say that we have a lot of vehicles on the streets with absolutely no warranty issues in this particular space. So let's take a deep dive and see what it looks like. So if you look at the entire battery bed that you see on the left-hand side, the battery is something that it is a bed, it is going to be part of the car, so there's not much of a space there to do anything around with. You gotta have a battery, and you gotta have a very powerful battery. The space that you have, that you can work with, is the left-hand side and the right-hand side, which is the open areas. So if you look at under the hood, right in the front, we were very successful in partnering with them in reducing just about every single component you can think of. A lot of hoses, a lot of connections, a lot of different configurations going right into the pumps, the chillers, the motors, the reservoir, the radiators. The entire unit was completely integrated into one particular component that we call the super bottle that you see on the top there. So the super bottle also has it has two pumps and a plastic bottle. So it has two pumps, the two black pumps on both the sides, and the plastic bottle with a chiller, all integrated with an actuator at the bottom with an inlet and an outlet unit. And that sits right here, right in the front, with all the connections going to the front and the back. Everything else under the hood is an open space. Everything else has been completely taken out. So we substantially reduced the components and integrated everything into two small boxed units, and that's pretty much it. Makes it very easy to service and makes it very easy to manage warranty. So this is the benchmark for thermal management system today, integrated thermal management system today. So what is happening in US and the rest of the world is everybody is trying to duplicate this, right? So they have been, thank you. They've been very excited about what we have done here in Tesla, and I get a lot of calls from a lot of different OEMs, and how can we duplicate, how can we get better, what lessons learned did happen with Tesla, and how can you come up with a better technology and things of that nature. And we'll share a little bit more in my next presentation about how we went about doing some of that. But the big benefits are right here: weight savings, cost savings, component reduction, overall complexity reduction, and everything else that you see right here. So we in India, and I think this is very near and dear to me. I was born and raised in Bangalore right here, as I told you before, and it breaks my heart to see 75% of people's time being spent on the roads. And just to get a feel of what this feels like, I took a drive down to the HL quarters right by HL in Indranagar. It took me 2 hours and 10 minutes to get there. And that's a sad state of our country, that where we are in today. I think it is very fair to say that all the stakeholders that we have here today can really truly make a difference, right? We can come up with a technology and a product that can exactly address the solution, which is emission, obviously, pollution, and speeding up the entire infrastructure through the government, so the make-in initiatives and things of that nature. So there's a tremendous amount of opportunity out there that we can leverage if we can bring these technologies. So what we need to do is, the potential for EV is huge in India, right? A lot of other issues that come with pollution and emission and health issues is completely going away if we can leverage EV, right? That's really, it's a basic denominator. You don't have any health issues with an EV vehicle out on the street. It's very clear zero emission, and I think we can all agree to that. So how do we speed up this? I think the need is now for disciplined execution with OEMs and the supplier network and partners, so that we can come together and leverage the best technologies from around the world, and thereby supporting the Make in India initiative that the government of India has. And I'll be actually, with my colleague, Mr. Jitendra, I'll be at Delhi meeting with the government of India and the ministry to see how we can advance some of these technologies and bring it more faster into the mainstream. And we'll be talking a little bit more about that next week. So that's it from me. Is there any questions or comments that I can take from you before I pass on to the next speaker?
Is it one of the reasons that US, you don't make too many two-wheelers like, for example, in India and all that? That's why your volume of production shown is less. Is that one of the reasons? Because two-wheelers you don't make in US.
Correct, exactly. We don't have that much of two-wheelers, but in the limited space of two-wheelers that we have today, there is EV already in adoption right now. So the biggest player in that space is Harley Davidson, and Harley Davidson is already working with us and other partners to bring the EV technology into that space. It's a great question, though. Thank you. Thank you very much.
China is the leading country as far as EV is concerned.
Yes.
And I think there are about 400 plus startups also who are developing EVs, and some of them are successful, some of them are consolidating.
Yeah.
So any particular reason, because nowhere that came in?
The best part is saved for the last part. You'll hear more about me and talk about China, but that's a great question, by the way. I must say that. The challenge that we have with China is China is definitely moving very fast in the EV space, right? But the problem is, how do we protect and maintain our IP? That's a big concern. So we want to give them the best in China. But the biggest challenge that we, and also some of you can relate to this as well, those of you who have companies with exposure into China, how do you protect the IP, right? That's the biggest challenge that we have. So in the limited, the mainframe that we have tried to do the best we can in terms of supporting them, and you'll see some of my examples coming up. Thank you so much. Thank you very much, and it's an honor to be here, and I look forward to meeting many of you. Thank you.